how did evolution create so much beautiful, complex variety on Earth? Like from that, you're saying that we're talking about improving different modules, but if we step back and look at the entirety of the tree, of the different organisms it created all throughout history, the stuff that's fun to you with the first few billion, and the stuff that's fun to me when I watch on YouTube, which is like the lion versus gorilla fights and so on. But the whole thing is fun. So all that beautiful variety from the predator and the prey, uh, from the self-replicating bacteria and all that kind of stuff. How did it do it?
How is a very difficult question, especially when we don't understand the past with clarity at all. I can tell you that there seems to be very critical innovations that happened throughout the history of life that are each themselves very sophisticated singularities that emerged once and then they set the tone. One of which is emergence of translation. It seems like it happened once. It had to happen once. Seems like that's all it took. 3.8 billion year, maybe older. Clearly subjected to a lot of chemical evolution even prior to the last universal common ancestor. And then you jump and you see emergence of cyanobacteria that undeniably changed the course of this planet in the subsequent aerobic photosynthesis that life learned how to utilize what's available in the environment in the most profound way. And then you move forward, you see the emergence of eukaryotes, the endosymbiosis, also another singular event. And then you move forward, and then comes the plants. So these are, I counted, I think, 6 different things that seems to have happened just once. And
The singularity events in the history of evolution of life on Earth.
so what's really fascinating here is that there seems to be 2 different courses, the time course. Evolution is operating at the molecular level, right? We're talking about seconds. We're talking about mutations that happen every second. We're talking about selection that's also happening under a minute, right? So that is a very fast process. The fact that I can evolve bacteria in a lab, and I say almost complainingly, "Oh my goodness, it took me 150 days." I mean, that's pretty rapid for a change to be seen. But then the big changes and the ones that I'm talking, the really big innovations that caused an increase of oxygen on this planet, or even its own mere presence, are due to these molecular innovations. Seems to only happen a handful of times over billions of years of time scale.
Let me ask you this question having to do with my half asleep tweet. So saying that we all originated from one common ancestor, that's just one of the miraculous things about life on Earth. Of course, you could say there's multiple common ancestors in the beginning, multiple organisms and so on. But the other stuff that you're talking about is these singular events, these leaps of invention throughout evolutionary history. Now, there's a bunch of people who were commenting, a bit surprising to me, who were basically skeptical of this idea.
The idea of,
Well, I would say evolution, honestly, the process of evolution. But when you just actually focus in on like, holy crap, eukaryotes were invented. Holy crap, photosynthesis was invented. Like, those are incredible inventions. And also, we can even go to Homo sapiens, like intelligence. Like, where did that come from? There's these mysteries. I think where that skeptical comments were coming from were also just the general skepticism of science. I think from the pandemic, people, maybe a failure of institutions and so on, there's been a growing distrust of science. And it's not so much that it's anti-evolution, it's more of a stepping back and saying, wait a minute, maybe scientists don't have it all figured out. And I think to steelman that case is almost a step back and to realize there's so much mystery to each of these leaps. So it makes you wonder, is there something that in 100, 200 years we'll figure out that we totally don't understand yet? Like some, I talked to a bunch of people about another mystery, which is consciousness, right? And there's people called panpsychists who believe consciousness is one of the fundamental laws of the universe. So there could be, like we have laws of physics. There could be something that's like a consciousness field or something that permeates all matter. And so like there might be, it's kind of like Newtonian physics versus general relativity. Like we have a good understanding of how things happen, but we need another layer of understanding to fill in the gaps of the mysteries of it all. And that sort of is a sobering reality that maybe there is something we really deeply don't understand. Do you have a sense of where the biggest mysteries here are? Is it the origin of life itself? Is it the leaps that we're talking about? So you see the beauty. You're fascinated about the translation mechanism. What are the deep mysteries there to you?
We are nothing but chemical systems capable of formulating or answering questions about our own existence. Right.
We humans or all of life, you think? I mean, no.
Humans are. I mean, the fact that we even have this conversation about our place in the universe is, at least to our knowledge, is quite specific to our own chemical species. But
Yeah, it's kind of wild. We're introspecting on our evolutionary history, and we're just a couple of organisms.
yes, and
With like another organism listening to this, and like their mind blown. There's like 3 organisms, 2 of them talking, and the third one's like, "Holy shit!"
I think that understanding what I really find interesting about understanding origin of life, or even contemplating about our own place in the universe, if at the end of this would come down to appreciating, or even before appreciating, really truly comprehending what it is that we got here, that to me is a huge gain, because there's no single question in biology, I think, that will give that will deliver that magnitude of that message and understanding, but understanding how life here started at first place. If we truly comprehend that, this is not a concept that is well taught in schools. We ask students to memorize these concepts. If they are lucky, they learned RNA world, chicken and egg problem, etc. That's the extent to which that got. Maybe their biology teacher was personally interested in the subject matter, if they're lucky. And you know the saying that the uh, brains are evenly distributed uh, across any metric you can imagine, but opportunities are not. So if people aren't understanding the importance of this, is because that's a lack of opportunity right there. That's was skipped through the proper education and training in the delivery of why science matters or how science actually
Yeah, but
works.
how do you even begin to seriously think about the origin of life? I mean, every problem of existence, of life, has its time. So I don't know if it's time to understand consciousness yet. We might be 100 years away from that. The origin of life, I don't know if it's time for us to understand that yet. Maybe we need to solve so many more problems along the way. And
It's not
so,
a competition of problems, right? So there are all kinds of problems, and it takes a lot of people to make the world. So you will always have some interesting brain going after an interesting problem to their own. The issue here is that we need to first of all understand that what we have going on this planet is pretty good. Good planets are hard to find. If we are
yeah,
alone in the universe, that's huge. We need to take care of what we got here, and we are incredibly vulnerable to the changes that our own species also helped create on at the biosphere, at the ecosystem level. We take it for granted. We take what we created for granted because of the fact that we think we are some sort of ultimate endpoint, the most sophisticated, amazing thing that nature could generate. I think
yeah,
understanding, and not even us understanding, but asking these questions of where did this even come from? How did this even begin? And attempting to understand that using chemistry and physics and biology, and because we can, that's the ultimate gift we can give back to the entire species on this planet.
Yeah, I mean, it's humbling. It's humbling to realize the complexity of this whole mechanism. It certainly puts humans in their proper perspective. That we're not just because we have brains and brains are intelligent doesn't mean we're the most intelligent thing. Because ultimately, the whole mechanism of nature seems to be orders of magnitude more intelligent. All of it, like we're like a hierarchy of organisms that have a history of several billion years, and that all somehow came together to make a human. And there'll be life after us, just as was life before us. And something that comes after will be perhaps even more fascinating.
Yeah.
Uh,
I think when you understand the magnitude of what happened here, there is no room for arrogance. It should overwhelm you and humiliate. It's pretty humiliating.
yeah.
It's quite amazing what happened here, and there is no other discipline that will deliver that but exploring our own origins and looking at life as a more planetary system phenomena rather than one single species at a time, a collective look